Hi, welcome to season 9. We're looking at art and science, and this episode is number 6, where we're going deeper into what is segmentation. Is it more art? Is it more science? So we're going to kind of unpack that today. I'm Mary Abazia, and with me is Tom Spitali and Sean Wellham, and sometime Sean's dog. Maybe not today. So Tom, do you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, so we've been delving into different parts of our tools, and as you said, Mary, segmentation is the one today, strategic, very critical strategic tool. This one happens to be, I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind by the time that we're done with this discussion, but this one seems to me to be almost equal parts art and science, especially in the way that we look at it. The case for it being science is there's so much data available today for businesses of all types, B2Bs, B2Cs, on customers, and the analytics horsepower exists for you to sort and analyze the differences between these customers and really come up scientifically with segments of customers. But I know we all believe that all segments and all segmentations aren't created equally. And that's where I see that we are starting to get into a bit of art, because I think the optimal approach that we all believe in, needs-based segmentation, has a fair amount of art to it in terms of making sure that it gets utilized properly and actually executed in the firm. So that's just, let's have a general discussion. We all love this topic of segmentation. More art, more science, about the same as I believe right now. What do you think?
Well, classically, it depends, doesn't it, on the specifics. But I suppose the way you classified it in terms of, if you're looking at data, then obviously there's a scientific element. That particularly lends itself to behavioral segmentation, because by and large, you can measure or observe how people behave. And one of the ways, with this added horsepower of data analytics that we all have, more so than, say, 20 years ago, you have the opportunity to treat segmentation more dynamically, for example. So you can create an offer, you can have a promotion, you can measure the results and the effect of that promotion, and use that data to help you segment. Say, these people responded well to this. You don't necessarily need to know why. And that's pure behavioral stuff. You're seeing a cause and effect, and then you can segment people around that and maybe do further experiments. So I think in that context, if you're looking at a consequential action of something that you do, a behavior, then it's scientific. But of course, you have to start somewhere. And that hypothesis for segmentation is often based on, what do they care about? What sort of values and ideals do they have that might make them respond to a certain offer? So you start with a hypothesis always, and of course that's pretty artistic, because it involves you knowing your customer. So I guess it depends where you start, Tom. Would be my dividing line.
Yeah, I'm gonna build on what Sean's saying. I think he's right. I think you have to start with art, because let's say you're doing sensing. We have some clients that work in that industry. And the art side of that is where do you go? What do you start to even segment? I could be in the oil and gas industry. I could be in the healthcare business with it, electronics, cars. So to start with, I think you have a fairly healthy art discussion, creative discussion about where are all the places we should even start to consider. And once then you need some science. I mean, we love cars, so let's go there. You have to bring science in. You have to bring in the data to say, what does make sense in terms of what is our ability in those areas, and what space can we own, and how big it is, all that. So that's where data has to play a part. So I see toggling there. You get artsy, then you need to go science, and then you got to go back to art when you decide on what sandbox or what scope you're going to focus on. You start to go deeper. So I love it, and I'm just trying to think how many iterations there actually are if you do segmentation really well.
It's probably never ending, isn't it? It's probably a continuous improvement cycle, because every time, I think there's always a refinement that you can take. Now, there's a danger of spending so much time looking for such a small incremental improvement that you're actually wasting more resource than you're going to gain. There's always that sort of equation you need to do. But I think in terms of it only ever gets better the more feedback you have, the more you validate and can focus and sharpen the segmentation message. So I suppose it never ends. But it can also, you can have feedback that makes you change direction and realize that, well, maybe we didn't even consider this segment and we should be focusing on them. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that it is continuous. You know, it's not, we've done segmentation. I mean, how often have we heard of people saying, yeah, we did segmentation 2 years ago, we're still hammering on that particular door. It may well have been the right segmentation, but if it's not refining, improving, or changing over time, then you're either very lucky or you're missing a trick.
I want to come at it from a slightly different angle, because before we even talk about art and science and whether segmentations are, well, we already have, but I mean, before you consider art and science, I think you have to have a bigger discussion. Mary, you alluded to one bigger discussion, right? Which is what, you know, industry or marketplace am I playing in before I even consider, you know, how to segment that marketplace a little bit more, you know? But I think there's a hierarchy of segmentation that I'll be surprised if you guys don't agree with this hierarchy, but you should tell me if you don't. But I think that the highest level, the most effective part of segmentation, the lens to look through is needs basis. Why people do what they do, the why-based segmentation. I think it's the highest level because it speaks to an individual person or an individual organization's motivations, which we all know that that's really super, super important and predictive, right? People love for you to say to them, I want to show you what others like you that feel the same way, that operate the same way that you do, what they're buying or what they're interested in. So you've got this highest level of segmentation, the most effective part, called needs-based. But because of some of the artistic components to that, there's a lot of art to needs-based, makes it a little bit harder. The next level down to me is the behavioral that Sean talked about. And I think it's the next level down, because while there's science that allows you to segment that way and tell you people's behaviors based on the data that you have, again, it's like Sean said, you don't know why they behave that way. So if somebody is a quote unquote, a loyalist in a behavioral loyalist segment, everything we offer to them, they seem to buy from us, you know, and you know, you love that segment, but you have another segment that's the opposite, right? No matter what, they don't buy from us, but you don't know why. So you got to have that needs-based segmentation that helps you to understand their motivations. And if you have both, if you have needs-based and behavioral, that's the holy grail, because then you have a segment that explains people's motivations, and then sub-segments that said this person buys from us and this person doesn't. I can go to the person that doesn't buy in that segment and try to make an appeal to them based on their motivations, their needs basis. So I think that, to me, is a hierarchy of segmentation that you have to start the whole thing with, that you've got to go to needs-based if you can get there. Do you guys agree, disagree?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a pushback. I mean, you'd be disappointed if I didn't offer some counterpoint here, but I think there's a potential trap here. I don't disagree that the motivations are the key. If we understand the why, then we've got a much better chance of crafting an offer that speaks very specifically to it. But when you talk about needs, you really need that next level up of needs, because needs also have a why. You know, you don't stop when someone says, I need to make loads of money. I need to improve my margins. I need to reduce the downtime. I need to increase productivity, and so on. They're all needs. But there's a higher level, which is that, as we teach in the laddering technique, why is that important? And you get to that higher abstract of need. So, which are closer to values, I guess, and are harder to get to. But I guess if we said to people, needs is the pinnacle, often yes, but sometimes no. There's always another question. Why are you looking for that? Why is that a need that you're looking to satisfy? And if you can get to that higher level understanding, you can possibly position yourself in a way that's more resonant to them. So I would agree generally, but not all needs are equal, and keep pushing until you've got that ultimate need, the real
I agree with Sean, and I guess what I would modify slightly, Mary, I want to hear from you on this. I just want to say what I would modify about what I said slightly, and this is a good discussion, is I wouldn't say needs-based is the highest. I would say why-based or motivation-based segmentation is the highest. If you can get to those motivations, Sean, that you're talking about, those values, and you understand the values and you segment on that basis, I think that's the most powerful. So I actually agree with you, and I'm modifying my hierarchy to say why-based motivation is the highest, then behavioral is the next.
But you don't get to the why until you've got a good grasp of the needs, right? That's the other thing, because you have to have a platform to say, why do you want this? So needs are certainly critical, but you can squeeze more insight out of a need.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that, I'm a bit of a purist where anytime we can get to the needs, it's great, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just have to go with behaviors. And hopefully it's beyond they buy our stuff or don't, but rather more about other behaviors that help us unlock it. And that's why, one of the most critical tools I think available is a cluster analysis. And with cluster analysis, sometimes you have parts of that are more about the behaviors that they have, the things that they do or the things that they don't, what they buy, what they don't. And you can start to unlock some things there. You have to go deeper when you can to get to the needs that are behind those. But I think that that's one step getting there. And just a little bit about cluster analysis, if people don't know what that is, that's where you ask a battery of questions. Typically, there may be some observation in there too. And either qualitatively, which is a little bit more art, or quantitatively, where you let the data, you have a 4-cluster solution, 5-cluster solution, that is all science, where it takes and puts people into buckets based on their response so that they are more like those people, but mutually exclusive from another bucket. So that's when you get really science-y, and hopefully the inputs that you have in there do unlock some of those needs. So you can, when you get done with it, it isn't one of those, where, well, they buy our product or they buy this other product or they have never bought a product. That's not going to get you anywhere. So hopefully the inputs are better than that.
I think there's another science element to segmentation, and it's unpicking the data to give a clue as to how somebody might behave in terms of buying or using our product. There's such a huge amount of data on each customer, and sometimes and this is where artificial intelligence or high-level data analysis can come to your rescue, is you could look at actual events. We did this promotion, we made this offer, we did this, what have you, and we got these results, and you analyze the results. And you can actually pull apart from that from very extraneous data points that don't seem to make sense, that need a machine to do it, and say people that fit this profile seem to behave this way. It's kind of like profile, like the FBI, right? We're not looking for serial killers, but we're looking for good customers. And you don't always need to know why. If you did a ton of data and you say you were doing lots of promotions, you're a very fast moving product company, and you suddenly figure out that Tuesday afternoon is the best time for us to drop this message onto the social media platforms. Every other day, every other time, it doesn't work. You don't need to necessarily know why that's the case, just that it is. You've got a strong correlation and you stick with it. And that's the other part of segmentation. One question we get asked is, how do you identify these people? You may say that someone who's a concerned loyalist is a good customer, but they don't go around wearing that t-shirt, right? So how do you find them? But again, you can take people that you know fit that profile, analyze everything about them, and look for those correlating variables. So you can use a lot of science to give you a clue that profiles customers for the behaviors you're looking for, which starts as an art, becomes a science, and then you can measure the results of targeting that group. So again, it's this continual thing. It never, ever ends.
And Sean, that's why I say, that the B2B has a strong advantage in segmentation over B2C. I mean, people think of B2C and they say there's all this data available. So where with B2B, it's, less frequent purchases, maybe less data available on people's purchasing history, et cetera. But you have one mechanism in B2B that you don't often have in B2C, and that's a sales force that calls on these people. So and they can use their knowledge of the customer and what we might call golden questions to really do the best that they can to put that customer's business into a segmentation bucket. Now that sounds like a lot of art, maybe it is art, but you can reduce a lot of the variables in that process. One, by having the sales force participate in all aspects of the actual segmentation process so that they understand and buy into, oh, here are the 4 or 5 segments, needs-based, why-based segments that we want to call on. Now your job as a B2B sales rep is to go and put those customers that you call on into one of those buckets. And you probably already know, if you're involved with the segmentation process, where 60% of them go, just from your current knowledge of how they've acted and interacted with you in the past. The other 40% you have help through these golden questions, and you can get it probably 80% right, which is reasonably scientific. So at the end of the day, I don't believe why-based segmentation is as much art as it seems on face value. I think there's a process there that is achievable for most B2Bs, but they've got to involve their sales force. The sales force has to be bought into the whole process. And then, in the course of one afternoon, with the sales rep sitting at their screen with their customer list, they can get most of their customers put into a segment and then act accordingly from there.
I guess that's true. I should also throw, because we talk about segmentation as if it's a given. Of course, one of the first maybe artistic decisions a business has to make is should we segment, right?
Do it, yeah, whether to do it or not. Yeah,
it's not universally true. I mean, we've had great success, and we believe it to be more true than not, and find it hard to imagine a situation where some degree of segmentation won't enhance the efficiency and the performance of your offer. But nevertheless, we should say that the first thing you need to do is ask the question, should we segment in the first place? Which is a whole different topic, but I just want to raise that it's not a given. It's just highly anticipated that segmentation should be part of your strategic armory, but there are exceptions to that.
Yeah, if you only have 5 clients or 10, you're in the airline industry and you have 2 clients, segmentation probably is not going to unlock anything you don't already know.
Right.
But if you have 100 or thousands in B2B, then probably there's some going on there. And one of my other favorite things is that the salespeople, when you do have salespeople, they already are segmenting. They already have a bias towards that. They're wired that way. And so I guess that's an art because or a very special skill, because they can walk in and figure out the different needs and work through that. It's a matter of the organization being aligned with them on that. So
here's my commercial for segmentation. If you're on the fence about it, and it's based on, Mary, what you just said. I think it makes, I think your great sales reps already do it, as Mary mentioned. I think it takes everybody up a level. Your good become great using segmentation. Your good reps become great. Your mediocre ones become good. And maybe your poor ones become mediocre, but should you be willing to live with that anyway? But it does, I think it moves everybody up a level, just because it is the essence of salesmanship, understanding this customer today that I am talking to, what their needs are, what their concerns are, and connecting my value proposition to that. That's what great sales reps do. Segmentation is sort of the decoder ring that helps all the rest to do that.
Yeah, totally agree.
So thank you for joining us. We hope that if you have done segmentation and you want to weigh in on our discussion, or you have big questions, we are obviously very open to talking about any of the ideas that you have. We have all of our podcasts, of course, in our Excellent Marketer website and pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.